two important tools that you use a lot in Illustrator are the selection tools and the direct selection tools. Let's see what these tools do. First, I go and I create a rectangle with the basic shape tools. So also one thing that you need to remember when you create a shape, you can hold the shift key to keep the same proportion. For example, in this case for the rectangle tool, I can freely create a rectangle, but if I hold the shift, it creates a square for me. So now I have the square, and you see the color is based on the last color that I chose, which in this case is the gradient. So I'm from the control menu, I'm going to choose, I make it like black. And so right now, the selection tool is a tool that I can basically select any shape in Illustrator and move it and place it somewhere else. Or I can do the basic transform options, which is the scale and the rotation. How? If I hover over my mouse to one of the corners, um, in this case, rectangle has 4 anchors or 4 points. So if I hover over my mouse to any of them and if I click on them, you see the icon is changing to scale, like 2 arrows, and I can start like a scaling up and down my shape. And again, if I hold shift, it keeps the same proportion. For example, I make it bigger. And also, again, if I hover over my mouse, at some point you will see the rotation icon. So if I see the rotation and drag and start to rotate it, I can rotate the shape. One thing is it might be tricky for some of you. Maybe you don't see these bounding boxes. If you don't see it, if go to the view, and you need to make sure that the option for show bounding box is activated. In this case, since mine is activated, I only see the option for hide bounding box. So if I click on it, for example, you see I'm not able to interact for the transform, scale it up or down or rotate it. So make sure that it is always activated from view, show bounding box. So this is the basic information that you should know about selection tool. Let's go and see what is direct selection tool. So direct selection tool is a tool that let you to interact with every single anchor or points in your shape. And as you have more complex shape, you will have more anchors or a point. So in rectangle or a square, definitely we have 4. If I select this tool, and if I click one of those anchors, definitely I can move it and I can change the shape or the position of this anchor, and definitely I will affect the shape, the way that it looks. Also, you will see some dots inside the anchor. Basically, it affect like how the corners or anchors are sharp, or if I want to make them, for example, more in a curvature shape. Definitely, if I select this one for every single anchor, I have this option. So this is very helpful too, that, for example, in this case, if I go back to the layer and turn on the underneath layer, and if I start, for example, I have this image as a reference and I want to start like adding layers and create an illustration based on the low poly outline that I have. It could be one practice for you to learn how to work with the direct selection tool. Uh, and do the basic drawing in Illustrator with basic shapes. For example, I create a rectangle, and if I go and change the color to this blue, for example, and if I go to property, I can change the opacity, and then I can see the underneath layer, and I will go with the direct selection to choose the anchor that I want, and I start tracing based on the reference image that I have. So this is one, and I am gonna like create another, for example, rectangle, and I change the color and go to property, change the opacity. Later you can bring back the opacity. And for example, if I add it here with direct selection tool, I get the points. So first, when I click on it, everything is selected. I need to select the point again. And as you can see here, if I want to continue tracing, I need more points. What I can do, I click P, brings the pen tool, and I click on 1 point. I can just like add, click on that line, and it basically with the plus sign, you will see add more points for me. Again, I come back to the direct selection tool because right now I'm in the pen tool with the P. So I come back to the direct selection tool and select the edges. And now you will see how I can, with having one basic rectangle tool, create more complex shapes and start tracing the reference image that I have. So this is a good practice. I want you to start working with selection and direct selection too, and how you can create different shapes and change the color and have more complex results. So I basically covered creating basic shapes in Illustrator as well. You can go and like click on the rectangle tool, hold your mouse and click, and you will see it has like other shapes underneath that category.